So we're now going to look at how we enter values and general data of an accounting nature, and we're going to start for that with the some assets and liabilities as at the date of death. So the first thing that we do remember in all cases is we right click, and that gives us the Bright Cell shortcut menu, and Bright Cell Home is usually where we're going to go. So if we click on that, this brings up the familiar Bright Cell menu. So what I'm going to do here, we're going to record date of death, assets and liabilities. So I'm going to click on that, and here we've got what is essentially an expanded estate account. We can see that the estate of the date of death. It's telling us whose file we're working on. Date of death of Timothy Taylor was 10th of February. There's a little thing here, imbalance. This is showing as 0. When the accounts are imbalanced, when they don't balance, there'll be a number there showing you by how much they don't balance. Let's look at some of these titles. So we've got the value requested, or the death is registered. So for example, if you're commissioning a valuation, that's a blue cell, so you put your date in there. It doesn't much matter, there's no consequence on that date. It is purely a reminder to you as to when you asked for the valuation to be commissioned, and therefore gives you a prompt. Well, it doesn't give you a prompt, but you can look at it and decide whether that's an appropriate moment to chase it up. The value at the date of death, here it is. You'll see that's a white cell, so it's not actually entered it there. If I try and do something there, I'm getting a message saying I can't do anything. So I have to put the date of death value in here. I'm not going to touch that one, but you'll see in a moment. We'll put something else in. Accrued interest, so this is useful, this is important on bank accounts or any other cash deposits. You can put in your accrued interest. Now what we've got here is a number of options. I'm just going to scroll across a bit here so we can see those. This is to do with inheritance tax, and it's to do with how things are recorded within the IHT account. So the first thing you want to notice is whether or not you've got instalment option. We're looking at a real property here. I've just called it unimaginatively, I've called it a house. Real property, as we all know, qualifies for the instalment option. So if I click on that orange cell, remembering that orange cells give you a drop down menu, drop down choice, we can see the little arrow here. What that's saying is installment option property, and it's a simple yes or no. So if you don't want installment option, you have to press delete and then it's gone. If you try and press anything else, it'll come back. So I'm just going to put that in there. You can actually type in IMP, but we can click on that, and there it is, it appears. You've also got whether it's jointly owned, whether you're getting business property relief, whether it's been owned for the 2 years, and that's relevant for business property relief. Business property relief amount, now that you can see is a red cell. That's not a drop down, that's a number that you put in, and the reason that we've got that as a separate amount is not well, it is really because there will be certain assets. I mean, a house, for example, is probably not an appropriate one for business property. It might be, but it's unusual. But there may be, for example, if you're looking at private company shares, then you're going to need to quantify the amount of business property relief. So if you've got excluded assets in there, then obviously they're not going to qualify for the relief, and therefore you reduce the amount of business property. So simply to have had, yes, you get 100% business property relief, then it would have been wrong for it to calculate immediately, or just simply put into that square the full value of the asset, because that might not be the case. Same thing, agricultural property relief, the amount of agricultural property, woodlands relief, and the amount of the woodlands relief. Okay, so let's just put in an asset. So we've got a house, let's have a flat. So we just put that, it's a yellow, so we can put whatever we like in there. We might put the address. I'm just going to keep it simple to put flat. And I'm going to tab across. Let's assume that we've actually had the valuation in. Otherwise I might put in, where are we now? We're on the 31st of January 2016. Obviously we're a bit slow if he died on the 10th of February 2013, but there we are. Let's say that I commissioned this on the 12th of January 2016. That just acts as a little reminder. You'll see that it's formatted the date nicely for me. Now the original, let's say that we've actually now got our valuation in. Good news, let's say that the flat is worth 300,000. Just type 300,000 in there, and you can see that already it's put the 300,000 in as the value of the date of death. Again, we're getting instalment option property, so I'm going to click there, IOP. We're not going to worry about joint or business property relief or any of that sort of thing, but you can see how those work. So I'm going to leave that for now. You can see that the investments don't appear on this schedule. As I've said before, investments and chattels. If you look down here, we'll scroll down and you can see that chattels, again, there's not much, you can't put values in there because chattels and investments are complicated and therefore they go on their own schedules so that you can deal with those separately. You've got everything here: debts due to the deceased, national savings, we've got bank accounts. Why don't we stick in another bank account just to make it interesting? Let's call this mattress. Account, type under the, and we'll put a date there. Let's say that we wrote to the mattress bank on the 10th of January 2016. We've had our reply, and we've got 30,000 under there, but there was a bit of accrued interest because the mattress does actually pay interest, contrary to what many people think. Let's say that the interest was £145.15. Okay, we're not getting any instalment option or anything like that on there, but you can see that's really how you go about things. Now you'll see that some of these squares are pale yellow. What that means is that they've been, you can't just type over them, but if you wanted to change them, you just have to double click and then you get the option to change, and you can see how that works. I'm not going to do that now, but it's pretty obvious. You just put in the new name and then click OK, and then it will change throughout the whole of the spreadsheet. So I'm going to click cancel on that, and that pretty much is how you do the date of death entries. Now I've just noticed, sorry, I've noticed up here we've now got, you can see we've got a £30,000 imbalance. If we want to get rid of that now, it will go if we leave this page, come back to it. But another way to deal with that is there's a compile lists here. If you like, what's happening with Brightside is that every now and then in the course of using it, it will update itself. But if you want to update it and you're impatient and you don't want to fiddle around and wait for it to happen later, you can always click compile lists, and that should get rid of the 30,000 imbalance. There we are, it has. Okay, so I'm going to show you something else. So if I now right click, go back to Brightside Home, you'll notice here we've got revalue. So there's a little reminder tab on there that record amendments to the date of death values, okay, but not investments and chattels, because of course they're all investments and chattels are there. So if you've put something in and it changes, now this is if you've returned it to the revenue already. So if the revenue know that there's in our banks there's £1 million in piggy bank, and we suddenly think, oh wait, that was wrong, it should be 100,000, then we click on the revalue and we're amending an existing asset that's already been returned, and then we get a slightly different looking screen and we can find the one that we want. So the piggy bank, we had it in at 1 million and its original date of death value, there we are, then what we can do is we can, we've got these various other things. What's happened? It's been a specific bequest. No. Has it been transferred anywhere? No, 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 no. Appropriated value. What these tell me is that I haven't got to worry about anything that may have happened to it since. So for example, if you've got a chattel which might have been appropriated at a different value or sold or something, or it just tells you then, it's part of an overview to let you know what's been happening with things. Let's assume nothing really has happened here. We've simply had a clerical error, and what we should have done is we should have put 100,000. This, if you can see here, is the revised probate value. Let's just put 100,000. And what we should find is that now we have the value at the date of death has reduced to 100,000. Now again, we've got an imbalance up there. I'm not worrying about that because I know that that will sort itself out. But if you are worried about it, as I say, compile lists, and then it's gone. Let's just look across at what other things there are on this revaluation page. Don't worry about those because that is just bright cell. There we are. If you hover on it, you can see what the number is. That'll sort itself out again. If you're used to using Excel, you'll know that when you have a succession of hashes like that, it just means that the number is too big to display in the cell, but bright cell will take care of that. And that is how you basically enter data. Thank you.